and blast off into the October sky. Main Joe just brought up that movie recently. Listeners, have you seen October Sky with Jake Gyllenhaal, the Rocket Man guy? If you have, please let us know what you thought. Consensus here, very good movie.
Very good. It's been a long time since I've seen it, but yes, I remember liking it and being really interested in it, how he got into rockets and studied rockets. And
Yeah, he was the son of a West Virginia coal miner. And his dad wanted him to be a coal miner. And, you know, our coal powers the country. Those skyscrapers in New York wouldn't exist without our coal.
That's true.
They're very true. And he had his dreams were up in outer space and studied rocketry, studied Newton's laws of motion and all these things. And listeners, please check it out. October Sky is the name of the film. Homer... I know his name's Homer. Can't remember his last name.
Like I said, it's been too long. I'm going to be of no help.
So, May is upon us. Today was a perfect day.
May 2019.
Yep.
The next election isn't until
we got
over a year away.
We got 16 months.
The campaigns have already started firing up.
Yep.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Doesn't that seem a little too long?
It's the American culture.
What?
It's. I was looking at the contrast with over in Europe.
Yeah.
They do like 6 weeks.
England, 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's not a year and a half. It's 6 weeks over there.
Dude.
I don't know.
And on top of that, you hear about how much these campaigns spend on their campaigns. Yeah. It's like, I wonder how much it would hurt the economy if we shortened the campaigns. If we shortened it to 6 weeks, would our economy really suffer? It might. Yeah. I don't know. You can't spend that much money in 6 weeks, can you? I don't know. Maybe the rates would just go up and they'd still spend all the money.
Yeah. Listeners, Main Joe brings up a great point. I'd like to bring this kind of down to a specific area. What do you consider the number one political issue out there right now? Is it climate change? Is it healthcare? Is it education? You let us know. I have my opinion, and it's shifted recently. My opinion has changed recently. It used to be that healthcare. Universal health care was my main thing for everybody, but that has slipped to number two behind what I think is much more important and a much more overarching subject, and that is big money in politics. Because it drives everything. The money drives.
So that's your number one issue.
That's number one.
Wow,
that's my number one. Get rid of it.
Good for you. Yeah.
Make some kind of I don't know if we need to amend the Constitution where you cannot take a donation from any corporation. You can only take it from citizens, and there's a maximum of $49 that they can contribute to your campaign, and that's it. If you can't get grassroots support, then you don't deserve to be in office. Don't let IBM or McDonald's or Walmart or the Koch brothers guarantee your election victory. We got to get rid of that.
Doesn't seem right. I don't feel represented these days. And how could I when my representatives all kowtow to the corporations and the banks and the big pharma, the NRA, Israel, countries too. Now we got to talk about countries because lobbying is lobbying. Right. Lobbying comes at you from all directions.
Yes.
I mean, Israel is a lobby group. I wonder if Russia has a lobby group. Maybe we wouldn't let Russia set up a lobby group, so that's why they do what they do. Try to influence the election other ways. Well, if we can't spend the money to influence it, we'll take our money and spend it on Facebook ads and stuff.
Yeah, listeners, love to know what you think. What's your number one thing?
And I'm also interested in knowing, do you vote based on that number one issue? Because like my parents, their number one issue was abortion. So they didn't care who ran, as long as that vote they cast counted for getting rid of abortion in this country, then that's who they voted for. So I bet you my parents probably would have voted for Trump.
Where does that one rank with you, listeners? Where does abortion rank? I'll let you know my deal is number one thing is getting money out of politics. Number two is health care for everybody. Number three is education. Number four, infrastructure. And okay, with number 5, I'll go in there with the abortion thing, because that, forgive me for this horrible statement, but that topic is pregnant with many different topics that can be discussed. I am against abortion. I do not want abortion to occur. At the same time, I know it must remain legal. It absolutely must remain legal. So, yeah, let's discuss that one. Listeners, how can I be so contradictory? I'm against abortion. I want to see them minimized. I want to see the number of abortions every year taken down to whatever minimum is possible, but it must remain legal. Please tell me your thoughts.
You took the words right out of my fucking mouth, dude. I'm totally on board with you. Because I went to college. We had an ethics class. And in that class, we talk about, look, none of these decisions you think you're making are black and white. I mean,
none of them.
They've got so many different perspectives and aspects to them. And I lost my train of thought. But basically, what I was trying to get at is that it has to remain legal simply because it needs to occur at times, and you can't be putting all these people into jail for this. I mean, sometimes it occurs naturally. I mean, it's just, I remember talking to Shy Joe about this, and he didn't think because we have all these new Supreme Court justices that, Roe versus Wade was in any jeopardy. He was like, oh, you guys are overblowing it. There's no, they're not in any jeopardy. But guess what? Yeah. It's happening. In Alabama, they're trying to pass a new law. I think they passed it, actually.
No, Georgia.
Was it Georgia?
Just passed
I'm pretty sure it was Alabama, but basically their law went to the extreme that said, look, if a woman leaves the state to get an abortion, since it's no longer legal in Alabama, she could be jailed.
Yes.
I think it's like 10 years in jail. That's fucked up. I don't know how the federal government could let a law like that stand. I don't know how they could do that.
It's what are they called? The fetal heartbeat law. Which I guess generally happens around 6 weeks. Even though there's some science to say it's not a heartbeat.
Exactly.
But, again, listeners, I'm not trying to encourage anybody to get an abortion. I want to minimize them.
Here's the thought I had: just why, rather than put all this energy into trying to make it illegal, which is. I just don't know how that could ever happen because it's
cause problem after problem.
Exactly. In some cases, it's fucking necessary. Then what are you going to do? You're going to stipulate each and every little certain, exception to the rule?
How are you going to do that? Yeah.
So rather than put all your money in making it illegal, better use of it would be to minimize abortions. Educate. Give them other options after school rather than hanging out. And you know what I mean? Come on. We were smarter than this. We can minimize abortions to the nth degree.
And here's something that the right-wingers won't like, but how do you minimize abortions? You fully fund Planned Parenthood. That is what they're in the business to do, is minimize abortions. They're not like Michelle Bachmann said, they don't want to be the lens crafters of big abortions. That's not their deal. That's not what they're after. They want to minimize abortions and sexual problems, reproductive problems. They want to educate people. Yes, let's flood the inner cities with these things. If you want to minimize abortions, flood the inner cities with contraceptives. That would help immensely. Oh, will it encourage young people to have sex? Maybe it will. But, judge for yourself. Do you want fewer abortions, or are you all upset about two 16-year-olds having sex?
Exactly.
Anyway, abortion. That's
But do you consider yourself a single-issue voter? Or how do you come about figure out who you're going to vote for? Like, my parents were single-issue.
Question. Great question. Yeah, their single issue was abortion.
Yep, that's it. Number one.
Yeah. I guess I do, in a very strong sense, consider myself a single issue voter. And that issue is big money in politics. Wherever the big money is, that's who's going to win the election. Doesn't matter what they stand for or against abortion, for or against universal health services, for or against increasing military spending.
Didn't Hillary outspend Trump, though?
Yes. Yeah.
So that's not 100% true. But a lot of that has to do with his but if you throw in the amount of money the free media he got, the media coverage for Trump was off the hook.
Yeah.
So if you factor that in, then I don't know if that's still the case.
Well, now let's talk about this whole Russian collusion thing then. Russia, I guess, wanted Trump to win, and they interfered and helped him win. I guess this is the narrative we're seeing in the mainstream media. But then why is it that the House and the Senate also swung far right at the same time? Was there Russian collusion there? You sure don't hear anything about that, do you? It's only the presidential election where there was Russian collusion and big dollars. I don't know. Maybe Dojo's right. Politics is nothing but theater. Nothing but theater.
That's kind of where my wife is at right now with things, and they're not too far off. However, it affects people's lives, and that's where I get drawn in. I see people not getting the health care they need and stuff, and suffering in this country that's just got so much wealth. It's ridiculous.
Wealthiest country in the history of the planet.
Just rubs me the wrong way, but.
Well, it does, and dude, we have to sit here and listen to Shy Joe and many people like him who are not for universal health care. They're not for it. And I just have to scratch my head and then bang my head on the coffee table and what's wrong with you? Why not? Why not? What is the problem here? Well, who's going to pay for it? It would be cheaper. It would cost us less money than what we're paying.
And if you don't believe in the facts we're presenting you, then you do your own research. Or tell me what it is you need to see that will convince you.
Yes.
And I'll see if I can find a study or done by the certain organization.
Manjo, we asked the question a little bit earlier, and you said what a great question, what a great challenge it is. How do we reach these right-wingers? How do we reach them? And I think we just say, well, universal health care would be cheaper. There's one way. It would cost less, And let's just keep going back at them with things that will impact their lives. You would spend less every month, and you'd be covered.
And when your friend Big Joe would be covered.
Yeah.
His insulin would be cheaper.
Big T.
Hundreds of dollars cheaper.
Well, not just cheaper, it'd be free. He's diagnosed with MS. Okay, your treatment start Monday. Sign this document and see you Monday. Yeah. It's like that whole series, Breaking Bad. Never would have happened if it was up in Canada. They found out he had lung cancer, and he got into cooking crystal meth because he had to find.
Yeah.
Excuse me, hiccup, listeners. My apologies. Kraft mac and cheese will come back at you. Up in Canada, they just say, you have lung cancer. Your treatment start Monday. Sign right here. Down here in America, it's. You've got lung cancer. You're this insurance you've been paying into where you think you're covered, you're not.
No.
And you're going to be bankrupt in 6 months.
Exactly. I think if I've thought about this. If I get a medical illness like that trying to treat it with no guarantees would wipe out the wealth I've accumulated. It would wipe out my family's. Better just to go with the flow and take the lumps and check out early and leave them with at least some money in the bank, in the house and stuff.
Yeah. Check out early.
Check out early.
You're talking a gruesome thing, but find a way to check out and not be a burden, financial and otherwise.
Who wants to be a burden like that?
My dad died of a brain tumor back in February of 2010. The last 8 months of his life, he was a huge burden on many people, financially and otherwise.
Yeah.
My brother and sister and I would take alternate weeks. Every third week, we would go down there for our 7 days and lift him onto the toilet, put him back in bed, and reinsert his catheter. Feed him. These things.
Wow.
He underwent. I'm going to say in that 8 months after he was diagnosed, $2 million worth of chemo, radiation, brain surgery, all this stuff. And my mom, thank heavens, didn't have to worry about a penny of it. Medicare took care of it.
Wow.
Yeah, he was 70 when he died. And something I didn't realize, though, is that she still had to maintain a policy. She still had to pay a premium every month. It was like $260 or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, Medicare is a kind of a buy-in program, right?
It is. It's not taxes, what people think it is. You old people about to start taking advantage of Medicare, please don't consider that it's just free. As soon as you turn 65, you're covered. You're not. Look into it. Educate yourself.
Yeah.
You must still buy a policy. You have to still pay monthly premiums to be on Medicare.
Okay.
It's
interesting.
a screwed up system, Main Joe. For-profit healthcare Can you consider 3 worse words to put together? For-profit healthcare.
Well, for-profit education isn't far behind.
And how about prison systems?
Yeah, for-profit. That's, again, the
There's
top 3 right
one
there. Yeah.
Right there.
Bam, bam, bam.
Yeah.
Okay,
are we socialist listeners? Our main Joe and Mojo, are we socialist? I guess on certain measures we are.
Democratic socialist. I mean, this country already is a democratic socialist country. We have Medicare. We have Social Security. We have these socialistic programs already. I saw something interesting on a news show the other day. They said that after World War II, we were really close to having universal health care or Medicare for all.
Oh, yes.
And,
I remember some about this.
But the big complaint was, it's too close to what the Nazis had. So we can't do it.
We just fought them.
It's a little bit too socialistic because the Nazis had it. And if we have it, then that'll make us Nazis. It's like, I just want my health care. I want my friend to be able to get his shit looking after.
His MS treatments,
Yes. And not even to mention how short we fall in this country with mental health. I mean, we ignore it like it doesn't even exist. I mean, just recently it seems like we finally admit that it's a thing.
It's actually
huge.
A thing. Yeah.
It's huge.
Well, we finally admitted it's a thing.
Now maybe we can start funding some
in,
education and stuff.
Yeah.
And helping make people's lives better.
I don't know. America is the best country on the planet, but
it is.
Whoa, we are woefully
room for improvement.
Yes,
so let's start improving.
And let's show the rest of the world when America
show them how it's done.
Let's show them how to do it
with ingenuity,
a great way,
creativity, innovation.
Yeah, yes.
Everybody wins.
Dude,
he can still have his fucking yacht, and my friend can have his fucking health care.
Yeah,
it can happen.
Yes,
we can figure this out.
Yeah, he can still have 3 yachts. He's still going to be rich as shit. And, what's going to change there? He just won't be as rich as he wants to be. That's the only difference, really. Would you say, Main Joe? He's not going to be worth $5 billion. He's only going to be worth $680 million.
You know what?
I don't know.
You know what the rich people hate more than anything in the world? Is writing the check to pay the taxes. When you've got to write a check for $5 million to the federal government, and it's pure tax, dude, how tough would that be? Even though you've made enough to be taxed that much, so you got, 40, 50, 60 million over here.
Just sitting there, yeah.
But, I don't know. It seems like that's... I can relate a little bit. I mean, I'm self-employed, so I pay my own taxes. I mean, I don't have the employer picking up half of everything. When it comes to Social Security and Medicare and all that other stuff I pay into, and it's tough to write that check.
Shy Joe and W Joe both exist off of commission right now, and you make a sale, and 45% of your commission is going to the government.
Wow,
45%.
Wow. That's getting almost too much, Come on, man. Crazy.
Well, then why is it we hear that Walmart and IBM and Apple didn't pay a dime?
Netflix either. Well, and then I heard an argument, they want to pay, but the law doesn't require it, so. Okay, so fix the law.
Well, who's writing the laws?
Yeah.
The ones who lobby are congressmen with huge dollars, congresspersons, I should say. And, what's so funny is the legislation in the country, especially regarding tax law, is not written by our representatives. It's written by the lobbyists, by the corporations. Yeah. They just write it.
Well, even sometimes think tanks, which are almost as bad.
Think tanks, yeah. Whatever name you want to put on it.
Who funds the think tanks? You're right. You're right. Yeah. Koch brothers, I think, fund think tanks, right? That write legislation and present it to the Congress people.
Well, listeners, please journey back in time with me to when this country was founded. And it was a revolution. This country was revolutionary. They were bringing about something that had never been seen on this planet before, and they knew it. Every representative knew it back then, and they wanted to see it work. They wanted this to be an example to the world, and it was. They kicked ass. They made America work. What's going on today? Lobbyists and corrupt dollars and bought off Congress people and representatives who don't give a shit about you or me. They care about being reelected. Would love to know what you think.
I think you waxed a little poetic there, dude. Let's go back in time. The founding fathers were all slave owners, yet in the Constitution they wrote we were all created equal. Well, only if you had money, because you couldn't vote if you were a woman or if you didn't have money. These were rich rogues that decided, look, we don't want to pay the king all our, again, rich people not wanting to pay taxes.
Rich rogues now that is something
they were
else.
putting their lives on the line.
Yes.
These guys had balls, man.
Yes.
It was a big deal what they were doing.
And what were they really doing? They were tired of paying such high taxes to an overseas despot that they didn't get anything out of it.
Which is the same reason why people wanted Brexit. Yeah, maybe Brexit wasn't the greatest idea, but, basically, the European Union is a bunch of unelected rich rogues, and people want to feel like they're represented and that things are working toward their favor, and it just doesn't. People aren't feeling that.
See, listeners, Main Joe just brought up a great challenge right there, one that I don't have an answer to. Hopefully, you will. Our country was founded by rich rogues, and yet they founded the most brilliant country that's ever existed.
They were very smart people.
Let us know your thoughts on this dichotomy. They were the rich landowners who were tired of paying taxes, and yet they brought about government of the people and by the people. And for the
exactly.
people.
And eventually everybody got the right to vote, and it's like, so what happened? What do you call that? Well, what we did is we interpreted what they wrote, and we expanded upon it, and we took it in a good direction, and we need to do that again. I mean, because our laws are getting so grayed out and stuff like this. It's like, okay, fine, we're here. Where do we want to go? What do we want this country to look like? What do we want it to represent? Because where it's at right now for me,
I've got an answer for you.
I don't feel represented.
Main Joe, I think I've got an answer, and I'd love to know if you would support me in this one. What kind of society do I want to see in America?
Yeah.
What kind of culture, what kind of socioeconomic system do I want to see here in America? And I have an answer. I want to see where, we all think about investment. What's a good investment? Invest in property because that'll improve. That'll appreciate.
Yes, say what's one of the safer ones. Yeah.
What's a good investment? Some stocks are a good investment. The best investment we have is to invest in the American people. Andrew Yang, universal basic income, invest in infrastructure, invest in healthcare, invest in education, invest in the American people. That is the number one investment that you have. What do you think, Main Joe?
I think you're getting the hang of this podcasting bit. That was a great transition, dude. You had me the whole way. That was awesome. Yeah, way to bring up Andrew Yang again. That's what he's doing. That's what he's doing. He's getting the money in the hands of the people.
Invest in the American people. Invest in them.
Have faith in them that they're going to spend this money in such a way that'll make America better. I mean, basically, if you want to vote, people, guess what? You vote every day with how you spend your dollar.
Yes.
You're when you buy an electric car, you're voting for made in America. Tesla's all made in America, so you're voting. Look, I want to help the planet out, and you're saying I want to support American workers.
Right on. Let's go with that one. Invest in America. There's a good political slogan right there.
Yeah.
Invest in America.
Does it surprise you at all that they've been talking about how bad our infrastructure is crumbling and all this for like a decade,
but
yet nothing ever seems to happen?
It seems like once a decade there's a bridge that will collapse, maybe.
Well, infrastructure and education, they're always talking about how they're underfunded, but yet it never seems to change.
It never does. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
But yet the Pentagon just got another $80 billion.
Oh, no, be fair. It was only $72 billion.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that was the increase. And by the way, listeners, please look this up if I'm wrong. That $72 billion increase in the defense budget would have paid for college for every student in America for 10 years. $72 billion only. I think, or maybe just 1 year. I'm not sure.
I thought I remember Bernie saying $36 billion would cover his plan for that.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So don't tell me we can't do what Bernie wants to do.
Don't tell me we don't have the money. We have the money. We have the resources. We have the ingenuity. We have the smarts.
So do we know how Andrew Yang feels about foreign policy, the wars and stuff?
As in no.
I don't either.
I don't.
Can't remember where he stands on that. Dang it! I should have brushed up on him more before this podcast. But maybe we'll come back next podcast with more Andrew Yang info, and we can update you guys, because I think we need to. And because part of politics is just getting your ideas out there. That's like Bernie. Last time he was running and he started talking about Medicare for all, it was received, but not nearly as well as it's being received this time. So first thing to getting what you want is you got to get your message out there, and then you got to get your message out there again. You know what I mean?
And again,
and again. And now look how popular Medicare for all is looking like it's going to be in this election. It's going to be a number one topic.
It is the number one thing.
You think it's number one?
I think it's what's going to decide the next presidential election.
Really?
Is where. Well, and didn't Trump come out like a month and a half ago saying that the Republicans are going to be the party of healthcare? You just wait. You just see it. It's going to be terrific.
I laughed out loud.
You saw it too then, didn't you?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. Main Joe, I got a pour drink. Keep our listeners happy.
Let me try and riff on this universal basic income a little more. I was trying to think of all the different. I saw Andrew Yang. I thought I was on Joe Rogan's podcast, but now I can't even tell you for sure if he even did that podcast. But I think he did. And what was he talking about? How he was. You know what? He's got the ice machine going. I'm just gonna go. I'll talk to you guys next round.